Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. I'm Mark Searles,
And I'm Samantha Miller.
and this is your source for wildlife news and the people that make it. In this week's episode, beavers get new homes in New Mexico. Birds get new grass in North Dakota. Babies get love in Wyoming, and a Yellowstone wolf remembered.
So tell
Yeah.
me, did you watch fireworks? How did your dog survive?
Oh man. Yeah, we watched fireworks and we've been taking turns, my wife and I, in our basement in our guest room, sleeping with the dog because he is terrified. And my neighborhood celebrates 4th of July for like 2 weeks.
Ooh,
How are your pets faring in the mountains?
they're actually pretty good. Mine aren't terrified, but I learned from a colleague of mine that if you put on a t-shirt backwards on your dog, it's like a thunder vest,
Mm.
and you can make a little cut in it, and it makes them feel all snug and safe. So both my dogs did really good. Um, they are relieved that fireworks are over because my community can very easily light on fire. So people are
Yes,
like slightly more cautious about fireworks. Like they think about it a little bit more before they go firework crazy.
that's good. Yeah, and so there's so many animals up there, wildlife, and even down here we got coyotes right down the street and foxes and all kind of raccoons and things. Like I feel bad for all the little critters, whether they live in someone's home or outside on their own during this time.
Me too, but the fireworks are kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why we go, right? Because if they're going to be happening, we might as well go and watch them for one evening. But one evening should be enough.
One evening should be enough. And, speaking of one evening,
Oh
multiple
boy.
evenings, and springtime, one thing we talked about is that I have now found multiple baby birds in my
Yes.
springtime. They're all fledging. I picked up one that I shouldn't have picked up, but luckily there are wildlife rehabbers and wildlife rescues you can call and say, "Hey, should I be rescuing this bird?" And they'll say, "No, you're an idiot. Put it back. That was a
Put
fledging
the
bird."
bird down.
go, go take it back. So that was my mistake, but I did return the bird safely. And we've seen other species fledging. And I think your story is about birds, but it's in an unlikely place.
Yeah, bird is the word, and not just birds, but all babies. And the Wyoming Game
No.
and Fish
What?
put out a press release talking about the good old times of spring where we see many, many, many babies. We got fawns, we got hatchlings, got all kind of good little baby critters on the landscape. And whatever
Is
you do, don't follow in the footsteps of Samantha Miller and pick up what you think is an abandoned baby.
Yeah,
And
that's a classic
most
mistake.
time, yeah, most times, mom is around. Maybe mom's going to eat a little snack by herself and come back and make some good baby milk. But uh, it's best just to leave the babies there, and then not just can you hurt the babies, but you might get hurt depending on what kind of baby it is.
Very true.
So,
Very true.
so maybe a baby bear, not a good animal to go and rescue, or a baby bison, or
Mhm.
the worst of all, a baby blank
Moose.
moose.
Ah. Okay.
Never pick up a baby moose.
Are they even pick up a bowl?
Pick up, I
Can
think you could like throw one on your shoulders, maybe. I don't know. Whatever method it is that you picked up said baby, it would be the last thing you ever did.
Uh-huh. Why? Why so?
Because Mama Moose she's a little grumpy,
Oh,
grumpy lady.
I feel like our carnivores get all the coverage when it comes to potential minuscule threats to human beings. And we don't talk about this enough with our hooved species, our ungulates. So, moose, super aggressive. I often run into tourists in my town that say, "Oh, where do I find the moose?" And I'm like, "Oh, we just, we keep them all down by the lake in a pen." We don't. And you don't want to find them and get super close to them. Moose moms are very, very protective. And they also see dogs as a huge threat. So
Hmm.
in my community, we've definitely had several dogs attacked by moose, and these are even dogs on leash. Moose see dogs like wolves, and they want to get those dogs away. And if your dog is off leash, chances are it's going to run back to you and then try to take cover with you.
And now you're the problem.
And now you are the problem. And Mama Moose will stomp you. They do throw you down and stomp you with their front feet, and it's really aggressive. Moose bites can be pretty nasty, as Monty Python says.
Indeed, indeed. And here's something peculiar, if you will,
Ooh,
coming out of
okay.
Wyoming. So at the end of their press release, it says state and federal laws forbid possession of game, and so adopting newborn wildlife is illegal. Citations can be issued for possession of newborn wildlife with a possible penalty of up to $1,000. Now, that seems
Mm.
like more than what Mr. Cody Roberts had to pay when he possessed a young wolf in Wyoming.
That is very, very true. But obviously, a wolf is different. Like we talked about, it is not a moose or an elk. So, does not count. Does not count,
No, it doesn't.
especially in the killing fields of Wyoming. But at least they're doing something kind of good, right? Like the baby animal thing is nice. They probably would have scolded me for my robin, just like the wildlife rehabber I talked to did. It seems like it's a positive, proactive step on behalf of Wyoming today.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a fun fact though of when you can pick up a bird.
Ooh.
So, I haven't done this personally, but my stepfather did it, where a bird flew into his window, and because they get confused by windows, and oftentimes the reflection they think it's outside, but wham! And so you can get some gloves on and pick up the bird and hold it like pretty snugly and just kind of cudgel it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the word.
Cuddle, cuddle
Yeah,
it, snuggle
cuddle,
it,
snuggles, and then after the
coddle. I think coddle was what you
coddle.
were looking. There
Yeah,
we
well,
go.
let's go
Okay,
with coddle.
on snuggling Mad Libs. We're getting there. Okay,
We should go on $25,000 pyramid.
we're so smart. All right, so you
Uh,
cuddle the bird.
yeah, and then once the initial shock wears off, oftentimes the bird will get up and fly away. Now, to me, I don't think there's a lot of science in that. Maybe the bird would have just flown away had you not picked it up.
Yeah,
But I guess for one's own ego of saving baby bird, or saving bird that flew into your window, you did a good thing.
yeah, and you know what I did learn too about the baby birds? That it's a myth if you pick them up and put them back, that their parents won't accept them again, that they actually will accept them again. And the cool thing was when I put this little robin back where I found it, it was chirping, and you could see its parents come back overhead and start protecting it right away. So,
Hmm,
but it was a myth I learned. I'm learning as I go, and yeah, you can put them back. And if you know where the nest is, it's best to place them back in the nest if you think they've fallen, if they're not fledging like my robin was.
that's really good to know. Do you know how do you get a baby robin to go to sleep?
Heck, how, Mark?
By rockin' robin.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think on that note, let's go ahead and shift gears. What do you got for me?
Okay, I'm ready to shift gears, and I am ready to go into an ecosystem engineer
Ooh, beaver.
that that was a quick guess. I feel like you've been doing your research, and
I mean,
and yes,
when one says ecosystem engineer, I mean that's kind of the top of the list, right?
I feel like you took the mystery away
I'm
and you stole
sorry.
my lead. So yes, beaver, Mark.
Tell me
Beaver.
more.
New Mexico's been doing a lot of really cool things for their wildlife lately. And one of the cool things they did was set aside money in the budget to restore beaver. So the state of New Mexico now has more than $3 million to spend on beaver restoration. And it's really exciting because beavers do all sorts of cool things for the ecosystem, including bird habitat, lovely songbird habitat around wetlands that are engineered by beavers. And they also improve community fire resiliency. So, watersheds that are managed by beavers, they don't burn as much as watersheds that are not managed by beavers. So, they are more fire resilient, which is really interesting. And they come back more quickly after wildfires. So, beavers are out there doing the thing. New Mexico appreciates them and is now putting money towards them to maximize their impacts on ecosystems and to relocate beavers from areas where they're a problem. And by a problem, I mean being beavers, but usually where humans want to do things. So
There we go.
there's there are a lot of ways you can live with beavers and all sorts of deterrents you can use. But sometimes there are people who really want a beaver and people who really don't want a beaver. And you can move one beaver to another place where it might have a welcome mat for all of the cool things they do. And that's also part of this program.
That's very cool. And so, with beaver restoration money, do you know what that money is used for?
So it will be used to restore beavers in areas where they've been historically and where their watershed services can be implemented. So all of the details I don't know. We'll have to pull out that budget, but I'm assuming it's a multi-year plan and that involves both relocation programs and non-lethal coexistence programs in areas where folks are living with beavers.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I think when I watched a film that was done by the Southern Plains Land Trust or for them, they had beaver restoration going on out there, and that's out in the eastern plains of Colorado. Not a lot of trees around, and I believe they spoke about beavers constructing dams not out of trees at that location.
Oh, what did they build them out of?
I think they used grass and mud and things like that. And
Yeah,
so,
like banks. They'll also live in banks and then some will strip the trees. And yeah, it's really cool how beavers live in habitats like that. And the trees are able to come back. They don't kill the trees forever once they pull trees to make their little happy beaver homes. Those trees can come back, which is different than clear cutting trees.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They know what they're doing out there. They got the little hard hats on. They got their maps out saying which trees they're going to go for. Yeah.
Yes, they do. They're incredible. So I'm excited to see what we do with beavers and in a bunch of different states. They they're they're really an epic species, and I think we do them a disservice by just categorizing them as quote unquote fur bearers because people sell their fur for their own personal profit. They really do a cool job, and we need them more now than ever before. And a lot of states will still allow you to trap beavers, even in areas where the state has relocated beavers for their benefit.
Hmm.
So
That's
I know it's crazy town. It's crazy town. So in Washington right now, you can even beavers will be relocated to a specific area for their watershed benefits. And that includes like making excellent fish habitat. If you're a fly fisherman, a beaver's your friend. If you're a bird, a beaver's your friend. Basically, beavers are all of our friends. So, but in Washington, you can go straight to where they've relocated beavers and still trap them and then sell them for their fur. And then Washington might relocate a beaver again. And then that beaver could still be trapped. So they don't get to set up their dams and they don't get to provide those benefits. But Washington doesn't want to take away the beaver trapping anywhere, not even where we need beavers.
it's like fisheries, but with beavers instead.
Yeah, yeah, we're just stalking fur trappers. So definitely a lot of ways we can improve beaver management, but I think New Mexico's taking some really positive steps towards that.
Do you do you know about the beavers? I think this was in the 1960s, maybe. Beaver restoration projects where they were airdropping beavers.
I do. I do. It's one of my favorite stories. And they were putting out little beaver parachutes. It was like, and there's these photos of these beavers just going down in their parachutes. Just I'm like, what kind of surplus and funding did they have? And also, whose idea was it? But also, how do I get involved? You know?
I know, I know. It seemed I don't think it's the most ethical way, maybe, to do a restoration project. The idea seems like it was hatched at a bar, maybe. Yeah, like, hey man, what if we just like drop the beavers from planes, man? It's like, yeah.
How about we parachute the beavers in? I like that. Are your birds parachuting in? I think you've got a story about
No,
birds. Are they?
yeah, yeah.
How
So
are
here,
they?
yeah, so where the birds aren't creating habitat and aren't being ecosystem engineers, but in North Dakota, what they're finding is even a little bit of native grass will bring the birds back. So North Dakota is one of those states where they're pretty much every inch of it is private land, and um, monocultures rule the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And because of monocultures, they call these ecological dead zones. Just, I mean, there's nothing, right? I mean, deer like cornfields, but as far as most other wildlife, it isn't happening.
Wow.
And so a really cool study was done by a student getting their master's at the University of North Dakota, and they were using autonomous recording units, or ARUs, to record bird presence on reseeded grasslands. And so they had quite a number of these out, these little uh, recording devices throughout North Dakota. And what they were finding was, you know, no matter what size the grassland was, that all of a sudden the birdies were showing up. And
Wow.
and so, they're hoping that more farmers will start integrating some of these grassland areas into their monocultures to promote more biodiversity, both avian and then also our critters on the land all of a sudden start showing up and utilizing these spaces. And so, one of the Game and Fish Department gentleman says these restored grasslands mean a lot, especially with habitat conditions the way they are right now in our state. These acres can make a difference for a lot of grassland birds, small insects, big game animals alike, like white-tailed deer, and they're really pushing for landowners to implement. You're saving just a little bit of grass, a
Oh.
little area for these native wildlife species. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love those programs that really help private landowners keep healthy and robust ecosystems on their landscape because it's all part of the piece of the puzzle that we need for long-term conservation efforts in this country, right? That we need both our public spaces and we need this particular federal administration to keep their hands off that. And then we also need to empower our private landowners to conserve pieces and habitats for species that don't know where public and private land boundaries are.
Yeah,
You want to hear about another one of those species, Mark?
I
That
do.
doesn't know?
I do.
Okay.
What is it?
You're going to need to buckle up because this is going to be an
That's
epic.
I used to fall out of my desk chair all the
I
time,
know.
so I'm always buckled up.
Buckle up for an epic, somewhat tragic, kind of tragic tale at the end. Tale of Wolf 907. Are you ready?
I am.
So,
Should we
Wolf
start a
9
campfire?
I wish we could. We should start it like a virtual campfire. Picture the campfire crackling right now.
Ooh, got it.
And 907 was the alpha female of the Junction Butte pack, one of the most famous packs of wolves or wolf families. We like families better than packs, right? Um, Wolf families in Yellowstone. And 907 actually got to live to the ripe old age of 11 years old
Oh, wow.
as a wild wolf, and she ended up dying of natural causes. So, one of the things that's really cool is that she rose to the ranks of alpha female 4 different times. So that means she lost that position in that pack multiple times. She had a bitter rivalry with her sister, and they would often fight for
As they
that
do.
as they do, for that leadership position. And at one point, before she had a litter of pups, her sister actually chased her out from the family, and that whole litter ended up dying
Oh,
as a
geez.
result because 907 could not find enough food to sustain those pups. She was involved in a lot of active hunts, and that family is specialists on bison and elk, and was really essential to that family surviving for so long. She had, let's see, how many litters of pups she had. She had litters almost every year of her life, and she still had a litter when she was 11 years old, which would be like an 80-year-old woman giving birth today. So it's really unheard of the life she had. She had lost an eye at one point defending her family.
Did she
She
get it
ha-
back?
no, it never came back.
Okay.
Um, and then
She wasn't
she
part salamander.
no, she was not part hellbender, as we've learned about, but she kind of was because she was a total badass. And even in her old age, she had a small limp, but she died fighting for her family. So at the very end, uh, her pack faced a conflict with another wolf family. So, as wolves do, they'll fight for territory. And this rival pack is called the Rescue Creek Wolves. And wolf watchers were watching her frequently. She's been alive for such a long time. She's very famous. And the Rescue Creek Wolves came in the middle of the night, and wolf watchers aren't sure what happened, but 907 actually died in defending the family from the Rescue Creek wolves. The Rescue Creek wolves were able to take over that area, but 907 was the only one in her pack to die from that fight. And the rest of the pack lived on thanks to her sacrifice. What we did see, though, is that the very same week of her natural death, very tragically, the alpha male of the Junction Butte pack crossed the invisible park boundary
Oh, no.
and was illegally shot by a poacher. So we know from a lot of studies that increased wolf killing doesn't increase tolerance. You actually see more poaching if you liberalize killing of any species of animal. And so he was poached. But her legacy is so much more than that. She had so many different litters of pups. She contributed to the genetics for so long. And this whole story about her is all online. And I recommend anyone who loves wolves read it. I love individual wolf stories. They're incredible sagas and following these families along and seeing how the different personalities play out is incredible. And so we should all remember her, and we should continue to fight for reforms to wolf hunting in Montana, which is continues to be a problem for wolves of Yellowstone that many of us know and love alive.
Yeah, hearing you speak of her, it immediately reminded me of Grizzly 399
Mhm.
and how she persevered for many, many years. And yeah, it's incredible to hear how a wolf like that can make it to 11. Like my last dog was 11 when she died, and she lived in my house. She never fought anybody, and and she had both
Yeah.
eyes.
Yep. The average wolf lifespan is like 3 to 4 years in the wild. So it's really cool to see that she made it so long, but she definitely was tough, and she persevered so many different times from even losing that alpha position and then coming back within her own pack. And then to die fighting for them, it speaks to who she is or who she was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. I know that story. Uh, drew the attention of your alpha male in your house, and who has now joined you on your lap.
Yes, if for folks that are you're all obviously listening, I have a very tiny dog who is almost 9 years old, and his name is Genghis Khan, and he heard me talking highly of another canid, and so he has taken his place on my lap and is insisting on making a guest appearance here.
Yeah. Well, long live Genghis, and let's remember 907 for many years.
I agree. Well, I think that's it for our news this week, and we'll have some fun guests for our listeners soon.
This has been an episode of the Wildlife Wire with me, Mark Searles, and my co-host, Samantha Miller. Thank you for listening.